Hello everyone. So let us learn about classes and objects in Java. Classes and objects are the basic concepts of object-oriented programming, that is OOPS, that revolves around real life entities. Class, now what is a class? What are classes and objects in Java? Class is basically a set of objects which shares common characteristics, behavior, and common attributes. Class is not a real world entity. Actually, it is just a blueprint or prototype from which the objects are created. Class also does not occupy memory. Class is a group of variables of different data types and a group of methods. A class in Java can contain data member, method, constructor, nested class, interface. Objects. So what do you mean by an object? Now I've elaborated you on like what is a class. Now what is an object in Java? Object is basically an entity that has its own state and behavior. So object, we can relate an object to a real world entity. Like it could be a chair, bike, it could be a table, it could be a pen. So it can be any physical or logical entity that is tangible and intangible. In other words, we can say. Okay, so an object basically has got three characteristics: state, behavior, and identity. State that represents a value. So, what is the value that is being stored in the within that object? Behavior. So, it basically represents a functionality of the object. What that particular object is going to do. Like for example, if it is a banking system, are we going to deposit money or whether we are going to withdraw money? So, it tells us the functionality of that particular object. Identity. So every object has got its unique identity, like how we have, like for example, if it is student, so we identify that particular student by his or her register number, because names of the student may be same, but it is a register number that uniquely identifies one student from the other. So this value of this id is actually not visible to any external user. It is implemented internally by Java virtual machine, so which helps in identifying each and every object uniquely. So object basically has got three characteristics: state, behavior, and identity. And that's what I have elaborated as a diagram. So characteristics of the object: state, behavior, identity. State that represents the data of an object. So what value is being stored within that object. Behavior, that is a functionality. It could be it represents that what that particular object is going to do. Like if it is a banking system, we could say like deposit, withdraw, and etc. So if it is identity, like how we are going to identify that particular object, and that is done by the Java virtual machine. Now comes the example here. So here I've taken an example which all of us use daily in our lives, like let us say pen. So pen is also an object, right? So when I say the name, so I can identify that particular object pen with its name, the color. So all this we call it as a state of an object. So the state of pen here is the name, that is Reynolds, the color that is white. And now for what we are using that particular object, right? So functionality, we use it for writing. So that is its behavior. So basically an object is an instance of a class. Okay, so object is an instance of a class, and class, as I told you in the introduction also, it's template or blueprint from which the objects are created. So an object is actually coming from the class. So it is a result of the class. And I have defined object in different ways also. So an object is a real world entity, or I could say it is a runtime entity. So an object is an entity which has got its own state and behavior that defines the functionality of that particular object. An object is an instance of a class. So these are the different ways we can define an object. Now, what is a class in Java? So, a class is actually, we could say that it is a group of objects which has common properties. Okay, though it does not occupies any memory. And a class is actually not a real world entity. It's just a template or a blueprint, or I could say a model, prototype, from which actually the objects are created. So class in Java can contain fields, methods. So how we are going to, what methods we are going to define. So everything gets encapsulated within that class. Constructor, blocks, nested class, even class could be nested. That is, we can have one class within another class. and we can have interface, so class can implement an interface. Now basically when I say that is a template, or I could say the blueprint of a class, so we have the class and the class name, that is the syntax, right? We'll be having the keyword class and we'll be giving a name for that class. It could be class A, class B, so where A and B could be the names of the class. Within that we will define what are all the fields and methods, right? Now we are going to see like what do you mean by instance variable in Java, method, and what is the usage of new keyword. Now instance variable. So the word instance tells us that something which is immediate, right? So it's actually a variable which is created inside the class but outside the method. So as I told you that class in the previous slide, the class will contain the fields and the methods, right? So instance variable is a variable which will be residing within the class but outside the method, and so it does not get memory during the compile time, but it is getting memory at runtime. So whenever that particular instance is getting created, that is why we say it is instance variable. So it gets memory at runtime. Now, what do you mean by method in Java? See, in Java, method is nothing but just a function. Okay, and so that function will exhibit the behavior of that particular object. So, what that object is actually going to perform. So, what is the functionality of that object? And now, why do we need these methods, right? See, whenever we have methods, defined in a program, that will actually when that will actually has got a lot of advantages. One is that we can call that method whenever and wherever we want, like usually we do that in recursion. So it saves the lines of code. So basically the advantages could be categorized as code reusability, which is an important feature of OOPS, and code optimization. So these are basic advantages of methods. So we can reuse and we can call that method wherever we want, and we can save the lines of code. Now, what is the use of new keyword in Java? So the new keyword is used to allocate memory at runtime. Okay, so so whenever we create an object, we have to allocate memory for that object, and that is done using the keyword new in Java. Now I have given you several examples using the Java program to give a better understanding. So here, this slide will elaborate you on the object and class example, where we have the main method within the class. So we have created a student class, which is basically has got two data members here, student ID and the name. And we are creating the object of the student class, as I told you, by using what keyword? New keyword. And we'll be printing the object's value. So let us see, and here my file name I've given is student.java because my class name is student, and within that I am having my main method. So wherever your main method is there within that particular class, that will be your file name. So my main method is within the class student, so my file name is student.java. So class student. So my name of the class here is student, and we are defining the fields here. So int ID, string name. So these are the fields for that particular class student. And then we are creating the main method. So how do we create the main method? In Java, public static void main string arguments, a set of arguments. So by default, Java takes arguments as of string type. So that is my main method. Now within the main method, we are creating an object, as I told you. So we have to have the class name followed by the object name. So the class name is student, the object name is S1, and we need to allocate memory. So I'm using the new keyword. So new student of. So we have created an object of student, and the name of the object is what? S1. Now how to print the values of this object? So we are using the print statement. So system.out.println is a statement in Java used for printing. So system.out.println, within that we are having s1.id. So we'll be accessing these members with the help of the object. Okay. So s1 is object dot, and what is the field name there? ID. So that will print the value. Then if you need to print the name, so system.out.println s1.name. So the output will be the ID and the name. Say for example, if ID is 1 and name is say Janani, so the output will be 1 Janani, right? Now the second example I've taken again as a Java program, which demonstrates having the main method in another class. In the previous example we had the main method in the same class, but here we are having main method in another class. And let me tell you that we can have any number of classes in Java, right? So here also I'm creating a student class. So the first class is a class student where we are defining two fields, ID and name. ID is of integer data type, name is of string data type. And we are creating another class test student one which contains the main method. Okay. So here we are having how many classes? Two classes. So one is student class, other one is test student one class. So within that we are having the main method, public static void main, string arguments. Now here within this main class I am calling the class student. So student S1. So we are creating the object S1 and with the help of the new keyword and with the help of the print statement we are printing the ID and the name. So S1 dot ID, S1 dot name. So this Java program demonstrates us where we are having the main method in another class. So we are having two classes where we are having the main method in the second class. Another example of object and class again where we are using constructor. So object and class example where here I am not taking the student one but here I have taken another example that is maintaining the records of employees. Okay, so let us see an example where we are working with the records of employees. So we are having the class employee here getting created. So it contains the fields ID, name, salary. Then we are having the method here and the name of the method is insert. The return type of that is void. It takes three arguments, int I, string n and float s. And then we are assigning these fields to the respective variable. So I is getting assigned to ID, N is getting assigned to name, and S is getting assigned to salary. Then we are closing this insert method. Another method we are having display where it prints the name and salary of the employee. Now we are having another class. The name of the class is test employee, public class test employee, and which is the main which is actually the main class. Okay. So public static void main string args. So here the file name that I would save by is testemployee.java because within that only we are having the main method. So here we are creating the object for the employee class. So how many objects I have created here? Three objects I have created with the help of the new keyword. Now the three objects are E1, E2 and E3. So now I am calling the method insert using these objects. So E1 dot insert. So I'm passing here three arguments here 101, the name Ajit. Okay, so that is a string variable, and then I'm passing the salary 45,000. Then E2 dot insert, again we are passing three arguments, E3 dot insert three arguments, and thereby we are calling the display method. So E1 dot display, E2 dot display, E3 dot display. So automatically the control goes to the display method, and thereby it is printing the name and salary of these three employees. Another example, a very simple example, which actually students usually come across in their lab sessions also, like the rectangle, right? So object, so here we are trying to find out, calculate the area of the rectangle using the object and class concept. So here we are creating the class rectangle. As you know, the rectangle takes the length and width, so that goes as the fields here. And we are having the function insert that takes two arguments here, L and W, and we are assigning, so within that method, we are assigning L to length and W to width. Now we are having another function that is calculate area because this particular program will determine us in calculating the area of the rectangle. And what is the area of the rectangle? Length into width. So that we are giving within the print statement. Now this is the class rectangle. Now we are having another class here. The class name is test rectangle 1 and within that we are having the main method. So this will be my main class. So automatically the file name will be what? Test rectangle 1.java. Now within this class we are creating the object for the class rectangle. So rectangle, we are creating two objects here, R1 and R2 with the help of the new keyword. Now we are calling the method insert. So R1 dot insert and we are passing the two arguments here 11 and 5, here 3 and 15. So when we pass 11 and 5, so 11 gets assigned to L and thereby L is getting assigned to length. So length is 11 and when it is 5 your width becomes 5. So your area will be what? Length into width. That is 11 into 5. It is getting calculated as 55. Right? Now when we are calling insert the second time using the method, using the object R2, what are the arguments we are passing? 3 and 15. So your length is 3 and width is 15. And here we are calculating, we are calling the function calculate area. So that time it is printing what? Length into width. So R1 dot calculate area, R2 dot calculate area the will display the length into width value of these two objects respectively. So I hope you have understood the concept of object and classes in Java. Thank you.